And now it's our generation. We have to redeem the dream. We have to excite people again. He, in the highest office of our land, wants to divide us against ourselves, wants to make us afraid, wants to make us fear so much that we're willing to violate people's fundamental rights. We're willing to go after the speech on college campuses. We're willing to go after law firms, go after the freedom of the press. Don't let him do that. Don't become like him. Be an American that says, I look to the future and I'm excited. Yes, things are tough right now. They're hard, they're scary, they're hurting, but we can overcome this. Our American history, if it's nothing else, American history, if it's nothing else, it is a perpetual testimony to the achievement of impossible things against impossible odds. We are a nation that is great, not because of the people that are trying to whitewash our history. To remove great people, Native Americans, black people, and women from our military websites. I don't want a Disneyfication of our history. I don't want to whitewash history. I don't want to homogenize history. Tell me the wretched truth about America, because that speaks to our greatness. And so what do I want to people to do? It starts with us, man, and you're doing it. I've seen courage of my colleagues. We're doing it, but we have to do more, and I'm sorry. I'm not going to be a politician that's going to say, we are going to do more for you. I'm going to be a politician, I'm going to be a leader that demands more from America.
Will the senator yield for one last question?
I yield for a question while retaining the floor.
Last night, Cory Booker made history by breaking the record for the longest filibuster in Senate history. Shortly afterward, I had the honor of speaking with Senator Booker about the effort and emotion that went into his marathon speech, as well as our strategy moving forward after such a powerful and inspiring event. However, not everyone was pleased with his 25-hour takedown of Donald Trump. As expected, critics included the propagandists at Fox News and, of course, Donald Trump himself, both of whom had plenty to say in opposition to the senator's remarks, and really Senate Democrats at large. Before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, I want to show you what Fox had to say about his filibuster, for a couple of reasons that we'll discuss after.
To anyone?
Nobody.
So he just wants national
Maybe
attention.
he has a few fans.
Well, there are a couple other senators who occasionally ask him questions, and he yields the floor. But by yielding for a question, then he still controls the floor. This is not a filibuster, by the way.
So here's what did you miss last night when you made that dumb decision to sleep?
I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able. I rise tonight because I believe sincerely that our country is in crisis. We are not solving the deficit in what they're proposing here. They're cutting and cutting and cutting things that make no sense to cut, and they're doing it for tax breaks which disproportionately go to the wealthiest. Placing tariffs on our biggest trade partners is beyond unfair. This drives the cost of goods up, and the consumer is the one who ends up paying the increase. Even with universities got too woke and had two excesses, the antidote to that isn't to try to shut down the thought of the left. It's to try to make a fair, more competitive marketplace for ideas from all around the political spectrum.
How would you do that?
I mean, there are just several things that he said are just not true. He's still running on the tax cut for the rich. Not true. And most Americans understand that. And they believe that under the past administration, when Donald Trump had his first term, that they got a tax break. They know that to be true. He also talks about the university campuses. So you're going to side with the people that are blocking the Jews from going to class right now? That's not going to work with the American people. And just over and over the talking points. If you want to get the American people attention, you don't do it on the floor of the Senate. You go and you start talking with voters. I'm not sure he's going to
town hall, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure this is going to get much.
Cory Booker broke that filibuster record, but because it was a record previously held by Strom Thurmond since 1957, a segregationist opposing a Civil Rights Act was the one holding that record in the Senate, now broken and held by Cory Booker. This is a moment to fight back against the history of oppression in this country that Donald Trump is trying to cover up and essentially destroy. That is what so much of this administration is about. It is about whitewashing our history. It is about changing fundamentally what America has always been and should always be about, which is about progress in the face of our many failings, our many shortcomings. Something Cory Booker said in his speech: if you have not had your heart broken by America, you don't truly love it. And that is exactly what we saw from Cory Booker, love of country. So much so that he would put his body on the line for 25 straight hours of standing and talking to fight for his country. Something that we know Donald Trump would never even consider doing. And it is why he is having a little bit of a temper tantrum. As we can see in this Truth Social post right here, Trump wrote, Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Rand Paul will hopefully get on the Republican bandwagon for a change and fight the Democrats' wild and flagrant push to penalize Canada for the sale into our country of large amounts of fentanyl by tariffing the value of this horrible and deadly drug in order to make it more costly to distribute and buy. They are playing with the lives of Americans and right into the hands of the radical left Democrats and drug cartels. The Senate bill is just a ploy of the Dems to show and expose the weakness of certain Republicans, namely these four, and that it is not going anywhere because the House will never approve it, and I, as your president, will never sign it. Why are they allowing fentanyl to pour into our country unchecked and without penalty? What is wrong with them other than suffering from Trump derangement syndrome? Who can want this to happen to our beautiful families, and why to the people of Kentucky? Alaska and Maine, please contact these senators and get them to finally adhere to Republican values and ideals. They have been extremely difficult to deal with and unbelievably disloyal to hard-working Majority Leader John Thune in the Republican Party itself. Make America great again. So Donald Trump and the rest of his stooges clearly having themselves a bit of a freakout over what has happened in the Senate over the past 48 hours. Of course, Cory Booker filibuster, but also push back to Donald Trump's tariffs. Something Cory Booker talked about a lot in his 25 hours. You think 25 hours, you got to fill a lot of time in there, but unfortunately, there's more than enough to speak about. And the rising prices that we see as a direct result of the stupidest trade war that has ever taken place in history is something Cory Booker continued to come back to as he talked about the cost of living that will only rise if Donald Trump gets his way and is allowed to attack Medicaid, is allowed to attack Social Security, and continues to come after the programs that matter most. And he made this raw, emotional plea throughout the 25 hours of his filibuster that really was just so impactful, just so many. And I'm sure you have not watched all 25 hours. If you have, then I commend you as much as I commend Senator Booker, because that is a long time to do anything. But there is one specific clip I think stood out above the rest that I want to play for you right here.
So I want to close back where we started about us, about why I'm here. I believe that there is an urgent crisis in our country that we are not talking about. It's not a left-right crisis, it's a right-wrong crisis. It's a moral moment, and again, in America that's going to define our character, about who we are and what we stand for. There's a threat to the bedrock commitments we've made to each other as a country. People are threatening that bedrock commitment of Social Security. They're calling it a Ponzi scheme. They're making up absolute lies about it. When I read American after American who said that that is their lifeline. They're told stories that if they don't get their Social Security payment, or they get caught up because nobody's answering their calls, if the rural Social Security office, I read states red and blue where they're closing Social Security offices, if I now have to drive not 100 miles, but 150 miles at 93 years old, it doesn't quite make sense. One of my colleagues stood up here and said that's already a cut in benefits if you can't access the folks. I stood here because there's a threat to these bedrock commitments. The bedrock commitment we've made in healthcare in this country. We won the defense of the Affordable Care Act, but my colleagues know when you start talking about Medicaid, that's not 20 plus million Americans. It's 70, 80, 90 million Americans. It's our elders in nursing homes. It's our children with disabilities. It's our moms giving birth that are still giving birth in the country with about the highest maternal mortality rates in the industrial world. It's a moral moment. Who do we stand for? Like Schumer shocked me when he said they're going to use some kind of budget gimmick to push this through. He shocked me, Chuck. I thought this was going to come down to the parliamentarian, but it doesn't sound like it. Now it's just going to get done. With the math, and I read from Manhattan Institute criticized it on the right. AEI criticized it on the right. They said, what are you doing? What are you doing, America? You're going to rake up trillions and trillions of dollars in debt that our children and our children's children are going to have to pay for, passing the bucks that will grow. Are you doing that to help people get more access to health care, more access to retirement security, more access to the things we believe in, big ideas like universal child care, paid family leave? No, we're doing that in order to renew the tax cuts that I read conservative budget folks, moderate budget folks, all across the spectrum who said it will blow up our deficit. And the benefits of those tax cuts, not all, let's not use hyperbole, but most will go to the richest people in our country, who I promise you, I celebrate people who've brought their ingenuity and their expertise and their grit and their tireless work, who've built wealth in this country. Should not be us versus them, but I'm telling you that those folks do not need another tax cut. And the corporations who came here, you all remember, and said we would like a 25% rate. The people I read said that when we kicked it to 21, not even what they were asking for from 35, it exploded. One of the main reasons it exploded our debt. And we read from conservative groups who just said all these promises that we would grow our way out of our deficit, they didn't materialize. All the promises that were made. Trump, for those who don't remember or weren't here when I read it, was going around telling folks that, oh, my tariffs, this is 2017, my tariffs, the money that I get, that will be what we could pay down the debt. The math that they did was that would account for about 1/750th of the debt at that time. But he used that money to try to compensate the farmers that he was hurting with his tariffs. This is a moral moment, and people are getting hurt, and people are afraid because of the threats to Medicaid cuts. There were people writing in and said $880 billion would devastate me, but even small cuts to services, my whole family, fragile architecture of our finances, if you just pull out the transportation money that my disabled child uses, that will crumble my financial world. And so when you talk about the bigger cuts, we know the math. Many states who expanded Medicare have a trigger that if it goes below 90%, all the Medicare expansion goes off in that state and millions of Americans will be hurt. That's not right, guys. That's not right. And so this is the choices we have before us. Our veterans and the VA. I'm mad at you now. You made me get very emotional with your story. We read John McCain's story. We read the stories of the poems of the unknown soldier looking over us and saying, what are you doing to the Gold Star families? What are you doing to the veterans? Are you living up to your promises that you made? Well, right now, with the cuts of tens of thousands, over 80,000 veterans who work for the VA, but even more, because about 20% or so of all federal workers are veterans. And we read stories from veterans in America who are shaken by what's happening, who are losing their jobs but yet all they want to do is serve. They're not what they're being called. They're not leeches. They're not criminals. They shouldn't be degraded for wanting to continue to serve their nation. This is what we're talking about, our veterans, our seniors, our health care, our financial security going forward.
We need to bring this level of emotion to this moment. It demands it. This is how I feel every day, how you likely feel every day, and how the people around us feel every day. We must confront this moment with the same righteous anger, the same unwavering indignation that we constantly carry. That's exactly what Senator Cory Booker did. He channeled that energy for 25 straight hours, making history. Last night had its lows, but it also had a powerful high in the midst of a deeply unsettling reality. Yet, there is hope ahead. And I'm eager to carry this momentum forward, that hope as I can, to this channel every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.